This is a PC I built for $640. It's also the first PC I've built myself after spending some time learning about it. My old PC was getting pretty old, and honestly, the performance just wasn't satisfying anymore. So today I decided to build a gaming PC. For this PC, I asked a few friends for advice, because I had no experience building a PC, and I also didn't want any compatibility issues between the components. Before getting into the build, we need to set a budget so we can choose the components properly. Next, I looked into where to buy the components for the lowest price. I searched across eBay, as well as Amazon and AliExpress. Before deciding to buy, I checked the seller's reviews to see if there were any negative feedback. After waiting for a little over a week, these are all the components I bought. Let's go ahead and start the build. First up is the MSIB450MA Pro Max 2. It's one of the most popular motherboards in the B450 lineup. This is a board you'll see pretty much everywhere, especially in budget PC builds. I bought it for $95 on eBay. This motherboard uses the AM4 socket, so it supports a wide range of CPUs, but the main limitation is that it only has 2 RAM slots. Next up, I've got a Ryzen 5 5500. This is a CPU made for budget PC builds, but it's still powerful enough for long-term use. It has 6 cores and 12 threads, with a maximum clock speed of 4.2 GHz. I paid $99 for this CPU. You can also spend about $30 more to get a Ryzen 5 5600X, which offers around 10 to 15% better gaming performance than the 5500. Now let's install the CPU onto the motherboard. This step requires a bit more care. First, push down and lift up the locking lever. Then line up the triangle on the CPU with the triangle on the motherboard. Place it correctly and lower the lever back down. Pretty simple, right? However, the pins on the CPU socket can bend very easily, so you do need to be a bit careful during installation. Next up, we have the RAM. At the moment, RAM prices are quite high, so I needed to balance the budget when buying it. After doing some research, I went with 16 gigabytes of XPG DDR4 running at 3200 megahertz. With 16 gigabytes of RAM, it's more than enough for my needs right now. The price for these 2 sticks was $99. There is one thing worth noting. The Ryzen 5 5500 can be pretty picky with RAM, because it uses a weaker Cezanne IMC, and some RAM brands don't have JetX standard SPD. This can cause memory training to fail right at post. So when choosing RAM for this build, you should make sure it's compatible. Now let's install the RAM onto the motherboard. After installing the RAM, the next step is storage. I'm going with a 500 gigabyte drive, which gives me enough space to install a few games comfortably. If possible, you should consider getting a 1 terabyte drive. The storage drive I bought is a Samsung 980 Pro 500 gigabytes, priced at $115. Even though Samsung drives are quite a bit more expensive than other brands, their durability and stability are very high. If you want to save some money, you can go with a SATA SSD instead, but read and write speeds will be about 10 to 15% slower than NVMe. Now let's install the drive onto the motherboard. Insert the SSD into the slot at a slight angle. Press it down and secure it with the included screw. Next up is cooling. There are several options here, including air cooling, liquid cooling, and the stock cooler that comes with the CPU. The Ryzen 5 5000 isn't a particularly hot CPU, but the Ryzen 5 stock cooler can get quite loud over long periods of use, and temperatures can get high, especially under heavy workloads. So I decided to buy just the CPU to save some money, and use that money to get a better cooler. Liquid cooling is expensive and not really necessary for this CPU, so an air cooler makes the most sense. I found a cooler that originally comes with a Ryzen 9. It has RGB lighting that looks really nice, and it cost $15. To install the cooler, the first step is to apply thermal paste. Since this is my first time building a PC, I applied a bit more just to be safe. Then place the cooler on top and lock it down using the mounting latch. Next up is the case. This is the Sigmatech View 2. It's a budget case with 2 glass panels that look really nice. I bought it on eBay for $22. After opening the box, remove the side panel and lay the box flat on a table. Then install the I/O shield at the back and place the motherboard inside. At this point, I realized that a few motherboard standoffs were missing, so I had to remove the motherboard and install the extra standoffs. After that, I placed the motherboard back in and secured it using the included screws. Next, we're installing the graphics card. I went with an MSI-RT X1660, Super 6 GB, and it cost around $150. This is a card that offers stable performance, and it's one of the lowest risk options in the budget PC segment. To install the GPU, I remove the retention bracket, take off the 2 matching PCIe slot covers, then insert the card into the PCIe slot and press it down until you hear a click. Finally, I secure the card with screws. Last up is the power supply, a Sama BTX 700 watts, which is currently priced at $50 on eBay. The PSU mounts at the bottom rear of the case, so I place it into position and secure it with screws. Next, I start connecting the power cables. I pull out my phone and check the pin-out diagram for the connections. The 24-pin cable for the motherboard, the PCIe power cable for the GPU, and the rest of the case cables. This is the PC I built myself, and now it's time to power it on. Oh man. Thankfully, it boots up. Next, I'll download a few games to test the performance of this PC. First, I'll check the CPU performance using CPU-Z. The multi-core score here is 4,519, and the single-core score is 579. For the GPU test, the score is 3,848, with an FPS result of 152. Now it's time for gaming tests. I'll be running all the games at 1440p with appropriate settings. We're playing The Witcher 3 at 1440p with low settings. FPS sits around 60. When there are a lot of effects on screen, it dips slightly to about 57. But overall, there's no noticeable stuttering or frame drops. Frame pacing stays fairly stable throughout gameplay. For a AAA title like The Witcher 3, this setup delivers a solid gaming experience. Next, we're playing Tomb Raider at 1440p with high settings. FPS stays in the 130 to 140 range, which makes the gameplay feel very smooth. However, with AAA titles, the RTX 1660 is running almost at full load, with usage sitting around 97%. Even so, this doesn't have any impact on the gameplay experience in Tomb Raider. Next up is Minecraft. I'm testing at 1440p with a 32-chunk render distance. FPS goes above 200, and when moving into more detailed areas, it drops to around 160, but the experience still feels very smooth. With shaders enabled, FPS stays consistently above 40, and overall, the gameplay remains smooth with no noticeable stuttering. Next up is CS2, running at 1440p with high settings. FPS stays above 100. During gunfights, FPS is extremely stable at around 120. For an esports title like this setup is more than capable. Next up is Cyberpunk 2077. I'm testing at 1440p with medium settings. With frame generation enabled, FPS sits at around 85, which delivers a fairly smooth gameplay experience. However, the RTX 2060 is running almost at full load throughout the entire session. Even so, for a demanding title like Cyberpunk 2077, this level of performance is more than acceptable. Next up is GTA 5. I'm testing at 1440p with very high settings. FPS stays in the 90 to 100 range, and throughout gameplay, frame rates remain very stable. Thanks to GTA 5's solid optimization, the overall gameplay experience stays smooth. This PC delivers solid performance at 1440p, from esports titles all the way to AAA games. It's not the most powerful setup out there, but for the price, it offers a smooth and stable gaming experience, and easily handles everyday use. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.